which team will Jimmy Garoppolo play for in 2021 and why? Let's get your mid-January prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's staying. And I've thrown out so many different possibilities of guys they should sign. Money is rich at this point just because of what's going on with the COVID and all of that, the way the cap has gone down. You've outlined, you have an awesome little tidbit about which quarterbacks win and how the money, you can't pay quarterbacks too much. I think they're going to ultimately keep Jimmy and address some sort of future contingency plan through the draft and maybe sign some sort of veteran to maybe challenge him and push him. I think the Niners have too much to risk by cutting him, and they'll feel that if they cut him and they can't replace him, they just threw away a year. And so they'll just stick with what seems like the best case of the worst case scenario, which is keep Jimmy Garoppolo, bring a couple other guys in, and just see what happens in 2021 because we have so many guys that are leaving in 2022. Now, my opinion on this it's a little bit, I don't like it. It's because the one thing I've sometimes been frustrated about Kyle Shanahan is that I feel like he's played the fence with Jimmy Garoppolo way too much.
I agree.
It's where he's not into Jimmy Garoppolo, and everybody thinks it's cool that, see, Kyle Shanahan is so frustrated. Look at him throw up his hands on the sideline because of his quarterback. That's not cool.
It's not cool.
Why do you want to see your coach frustrated about his quarterback?
Yeah.
And it's not good.
He signed off one.
Right. It's not good to see. So, I'm a little sick of him playing the fence. I wish he would just take the leap of faith and say, you know what? It didn't work with Jimmy. Let's get rid of Jimmy. Let's let him go wherever he wants. If he has success, he has success. I could care less because it didn't work for me. And it's the same thing I wanted him to do with Dante Pettis. He didn't do it with Dante Pettis. So I don't think he'll do it with Jimmy.
All right, let me take it from here because I think you're right on. You're brilliant. The concept of riding the fence is what we have to talk about because that's what the Niners are doing. All right. They structured this contract in such a way that the last 3 years you can move on from Jimmy if you want to. That's the whole perk of the structure of this contract. You can cut him, you can trade him. He's movable. But keeping him, he's expensive. So the design of the contract was either to move on from him by now or to extend him by now. One or the other. Make up your mind. By keeping him at the end of this deal, you're riding the fence. He's too expensive. He's not worth $26.9 a season. What you can do is extend the contract. Give him another signing bonus. Give him a 5-year extension. Make him cheap now. Backload it. That's what you do. Or you trade him. One or the other. Keeping him on this deal is not tenable. You can't do it. They shouldn't have done it last year. They should have traded him last year and brought in Brady or extended him. One or the other. They rode the fence and they can't do it again. So what I'm going to say is I think they're going to trade him back to New England. The rumor I heard last year was that they could have had a first-round pick for him and they turned him down. This year, the offer is going to be lower, but I think that they're going to take what they can get. I don't know what the offer is going to be. I think they'll probably end up getting more than we expect. I think the Patriots really hold Jimmy Garoppolo in high regard. I think they feel that they can rehabilitate him. And if they offered him a 1 for him last year, maybe the Niners could get a late 2 for him this year. I don't know. But my prediction is that there's going to be a convoluted trade, maybe with players involved too, and multiple picks. But eventually, when it all is boiled down, Jimmy's going back to the Patriots, and I think it's going to happen before the draft. I think it'll happen in the next couple months. And the way I look at it is when you ask Kyle, he says the right things, but there's no enthusiasm behind him about Jimmy. And when you ask Jimmy, he says the right things, but there's no enthusiasm about coming back. And it almost seems like both sides have been like, look, we agree what we're going to try to do here. Let's just keep our mouths freaking closed and end this and have no drama and move on. And that's the way I read it.
Okay, so this is super interesting, right? So let's go with this. I have one more spot then if we're going to go with this, okay?
Yeah.
So it's being reported heavily now that Josh McDaniels might get the Philadelphia job, okay?
Ooh.
And people say, allegedly, again, I don't know this for sure. That's what people say. I don't know. But they say that Josh McDaniels loves Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
So if you remember what Josh McDaniels did the first time he got a head coaching job, right? The whole thing they brought him in was the young quarterback guru to help out Jay Cutler. Well, he traded Jay Cutler immediately and started Kyle Orton. I think that there maybe Josh McDaniels does that with Carson Wentz,
right,
and gets Jimmy Garoppolo and goes on with that. So that's a possibility. My second thing is I think it's much harder to trade him this year than it was last year. And that's because last year, getting a 1-year rental on his contract, which this year wasn't too bad, seemed like something, okay, we can get him for 1 year. His contract's cheap. We're move off of him, and he's a solid starting quarterback coming off a solid season. Did I lose you or did you lose me?
No, you're just going in and out a little bit, but you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. He's a solid starting quarterback coming off a solid season, and we can win with him that way. This year, you add another injury to his list of injuries, and you add the fact that he's not coming off a solid season, and you only have one season of sample size to say he's a solid player. So, and I do think he's a solid player. I think he's a pretty good one. And so that's that. So I don't think that there's going to be a huge trade market to trade for his salary next year. And because of that,
no, the other thing it's a good point. Hold on. Let's stick with that real quick. I think because I preface this by saying you got to do something with this contract. You're riding the fence to let it play out. The team that acquires him has to extend his contract. And I think the Patriots like him. They know him. They developed him. I think they can trade for him, whatever it would take, maybe a 3 or a 2, basically, and renegotiate his deal. Say we'll give you an extension. We'll keep you here long term, but we got to get your cap number low at least in 2021. I mean, because the cap's going down. But we'll give you long term security and we'll backload it and you'll get money. That's what.
Would they ask the Niners to do what they did with the Titans had to do with Ryan Tannehill, which was change his contract around and make the Dolphins pay a large portion of it? I don't think the Niners would be willing to do that. I don't think so.
I think what they're going to do is I think they like him. I think they want him. I think they're going to drop their trade from a first to basically a second, and they'll extend his contract. And it'll be his cap number will be low in 2021. It'll be backloaded, and then they can continue to renegotiate as they get down the line if they still like him. I mean, that's what you do with these quarterbacks. You renegotiate.
Okay, fair enough. And then there was another thing I wanted to bring up, and it goes to the riding the fence. And it's because I've seen a lot of stuff that says that Kyle Shanahan never wanted Jimmy Garoppolo in the first place. And that speaks to the fact that he wanted Kirk Cousins more. So I wanted to kind of dispel that rumor. Yeah. Was Kyle Shanahan upset that they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo? Probably, but I don't think it was because they got Garoppolo. It was more because he was so obsessed with getting Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And just something to put out is February 5th, 2017, after Kyle Shanahan lost the Super Bowl, Ian Rappaport, maybe the most plugged in person in the NFL, tweeted this about Kyle Shanahan. Hashtag 49ers starting QB could be in the building today. If Kyle Shanahan doesn't get Kirk Cousins, his targets, Jimmy Garoppolo, then Matt Schaub. Which means what?
Matt Schaub.
But it means what? It means what?
It means he liked him.
Yes.
He liked him. He also said that when he was in Cleveland and he was evaluating quarterback that year, he didn't like Johnny Manziel, and his two favorites were Carr and Garoppolo. He said that before the Super Bowl that year.
Right. And then when they traded for him, remember Mary Kay Cabot, the Browns writer who's super plugged in, put out the piece that he really liked Garoppolo before the draft, and he had a private workout with Garoppolo and all of that. So let's not act like this is a quarterback that he's just been totally out on and he's never wanted, right?
No.
This is someone who if they didn't get Kirk Cousins, they were probably going to try and make a move, and they inquired about him. And that was when the whole John Lynch, Tom Brady story came out, where John Lynch called about Jimmy Garoppolo. Belichick said, no way. Then John Lynch said, what's your plan at quarterback? Is Tom Brady available? And, it was this real cool story about John Lynch. So there's all of that. So I want to just give Kyle Shanahan a full pass here, because I think that the things that are said about him in this situation aren't exactly flattering. And they're said in a flattering way because Jimmy isn't playing good football. So it's like, oh, look, Kyle is so angry. But it's not good for your head coach to be so publicly out on your quarterback. And especially again, he's going to play for you next year.
I feel like to use a terrible cliche, like the toothpaste is out of the tube. Like everyone knows Kyle doesn't like Jimmy. Everyone knows or can kind of tell that Jimmy feels a little wronged by the Niners putting him out there injured. It's over. The marriage is over. And they can say what they want, but if the Patriots still like Jimmy, I think the Niners will be more than willing to make that happen. And that's my prediction. Let's see what happens. And now, hold on, because for this to happen, the Niners would have to have a replacement, right?
Right, but here's the thing. If they bring him back, I'm going to say it right now, which was my prediction, right? I said they were going to bring him back. If they bring him back, they'll be making the same mistake that they made last year, which is trying to make something work that didn't work the first time. You got to just start fresh, bring some new energy into the building, and move on for both people.
To bring him back, you'd have to extend his contract. You'd have to renegotiate his contract. You'd have to take 10 to 15 million of his base salary in 2021, convert it to signing bonus, make his cap percentage way lower, but that would effectively lock him into your team for the next 2-3 years, and they don't want to do that. So they got to move on. You cannot ride the fence another season. If he's on this team next year, you extend his deal and renegotiate it. Otherwise, you're not going to win Super Bowl next year. And then I think they would be much more willing to move on than to extend his contract. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree. I think their best case scenario next year, if they keep him, would be being what the Rams were this year. Really good team, up and down season, 10-6, make the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game, get bounced.
Totally agree. Because he'd be making about that percentage. What Goff's making down there, 15. You can't win that way. Even if you have the number one defense in the league and an excellent running game, you just get to a certain point.